In the heart of Paris stood an old granite building that many citizens passed each day without giving it more than a quick glance. Inside this building was one of the most powerful yet hidden institutions of the Republic. It was the Ministry of Finance, and within its inner circles worked a man whose name was whispered with a mixture of respect, awe, and at times fear. He was known simply as l'Inspecteur des Finances. His true name was Henri Valancourt. He was a man in his late 40s with a calm face that revealed very little. He had the type of presence that made people straighten their posture the moment he entered a room. His suits were always simple but elegant, never extravagant. His voice was mild, his tone measured, and his eyes sharp enough to cut through any lie presented to him. Henri had served the ministry for more than 2 decades. He had entered as a brilliant young graduate from the most prestigious institutions of France. But unlike many others who used their positions to rise quickly into political influence, Henri preferred the shadows. He preferred the silence of numbers, the truth hidden inside financial records, and the sense of justice born from uncovering corruption. He believed that the Republic survived because someone had to look at the books and question every figure, every transfer, and every unexplained fortune. One morning in early autumn, when the streets of Paris were covered in golden leaves that rolled gently across the avenues, Henri received a sealed envelope on his desk. The envelope bore the mark of the minister himself. Henri rarely received direct requests from the minister, and when he did, it usually meant something serious had unfolded. He opened the envelope carefully and pulled out a single sheet of paper. It mentioned a new investigation that required immediate attention. The subject was a large infrastructure project known as La Voie Atlantique, a multi-billion-euro railway corridor meant to connect the interior regions of France with the Atlantic ports. The project had been celebrated in national news. It represented progress, unity, and hope for economic growth across regions that felt forgotten. But according to the note, an anonymous source had reported massive inconsistencies in the financial records. Hundreds of millions of euros seemed unaccounted for. The minister needed someone trustworthy, discreet, and relentless. Henri knew at once why the envelope had reached his hands. He closed the folder, locked his office, and left the building. His investigations never began at his desk. They began in the places where decisions were made and where money changed hands. The headquarters of the La Voie Atlantique project was located near the banks of the River Seine, in a renovated industrial complex. Henri arrived without announcing himself. He preferred to see places as they truly were, not dressed for inspection. He had a simple badge that granted him access anywhere, but he rarely displayed it unless required. Often a confident step was enough to bypass any resistance. Inside the building he walked through long corridors filled with maps, charts, and architectural models. Engineers and administrators hurried around him, unaware of who he was. Henri observed them all. He noticed their nervous gestures, their whispered discussions, their hurried glances. Something in this environment felt wrong. It was too chaotic for a project of this scale, and chaos often hid secrets. He reached a large conference room where a meeting appeared to be underway. Without knocking, he pushed the door open. The chatter stopped instantly. A dozen men and women turned their eyes toward him. The director of the project, a tall man named Claude Berenger, stood at the head of the table. His confident expression vanished the moment he saw Henri. Claude forced a polite smile and asked, "Who are you?" Henri placed his badge on the table. The room fell silent. "I am here to review your accounts," he said calmly. Claude swallowed hard. "Of course. Please let us know what you require." Henri did not need an invitation. He walked to the far end of the table where a thick binder lay filled with documents. He opened it and skimmed through a few pages. His eyes moved swiftly, absorbing every detail. He closed the binder and looked up. "I will need full access to all financial records since the project began. Digital and physical, no exceptions. And I will need them today." Claude nodded, though his eyes betrayed discomfort. As Henri left the room he heard whispers behind him. The team members knew what his presence meant. Someone had lied, and he was here to find out who. For the next several days Henri worked from a temporary office inside the complex. He reviewed thousands of pages of contracts, invoices, transfers, and procurement orders. As he moved through the documents he saw patterns. Many companies involved in the project were legitimate, but a few smaller firms caught his attention. Their names appeared repeatedly in transactions far larger than their known capacities. Some firms had no physical address. Others had been created only months before receiving multi-million euro contracts. Henri traced the funds from these suspicious firms. The trail was complex, jumping across accounts in Luxembourg, Switzerland, and various tax havens. But every trail told a story, and Henri was a master of understanding such stories. 3 nights into his investigation, he sat alone in the dim office, illuminated by a single desk lamp. Outside the windows the city was silent. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. He had discovered nearly 400 million euros routed through shell companies and into private accounts. Someone inside the project was siphoning public money at an extraordinary scale. But Henri needed proof. Not suspicion, not assumptions. Solid proof that would stand in court and topple whoever was responsible. The next morning he requested a private meeting with the project director Claude. They met in a small office overlooking the river. Claude tried to maintain a calm expression but failed. Henri placed a folder on the desk. "Tell me about these companies," he said. Claude glanced at the names and paled. "I do not know them personally. Procurement handles those contracts." Henri nodded slowly. He studied Claude with unblinking eyes. Claude shifted in his seat. "I need your full cooperation," Henri said. "If you hide anything, the consequences will be severe." Claude nodded but said nothing. Henri left the office and walked toward the archives. As he approached he saw a man leaving the room hurriedly. The man wore a gray coat and carried a large envelope. Henri recognized him. It was Alain Morel, one of the senior financial controllers. Henri had previously noticed that Morel often avoided eye contact whenever they crossed paths. Something about him now seemed even more suspicious. Henri followed him discreetly. Morel exited the building and moved toward the parking area. Before he could reach his car, Henri approached him. "Good morning, Alain." Morel froze. His hands tightened around the envelope. "What is in the envelope?" Henri asked. "Just some files I need to review at home," Morel said, avoiding eye contact. "Let me see them." Morel hesitated. That hesitation was all Henri needed. He reached forward calmly and placed his hand on the envelope. "Give it to me," he said. Morel released his grip. Henri opened the envelope and found several original invoices, contracts, and bank statements that had mysteriously gone missing from the archives the previous day. "So you were planning to destroy these documents," Henri said. Morel began to stutter. "I can explain. It is not what it looks like." Henri spoke softly. "You can explain at the ministry." He escorted Morel to his car, locked the documents safely, and called the ministry. Within an hour Morel was taken into custody. Yet Henri knew that Morel was not the mastermind. He was merely a tool. Someone else orchestrated the scheme. Later that evening Henri sat by the river. He let the cool breeze clear his thoughts. He looked at the lights of the city reflecting on the water. He knew corruption was like these reflections. Beautiful from afar, but distorted when examined closely. The next step required more than analysis. It required confrontation. The following day Henri summoned Claude again. This time Claude entered the room visibly trembling. Henri calmly opened a file. Inside were printed statements showing that more than 70 million euros had ended up in an account registered under the name of Claude's cousin, a man with no declared profession. Claude collapsed into his chair. He covered his face with his hands. "Please," he whispered, lowering his voice so that the office walls almost seemed to absorb his desperation. "I never wanted this. They forced me. I had no choice." "Who forced you?" Henri asked. Claude hesitated. Fear held him silent. Henri spoke firmly. "If you do not speak now, you will carry the full responsibility. If you speak, perhaps you can save yourself and the project." Claude lifted his head slowly. His eyes were filled with defeat. "It was the consortium chairman," he said. "Marcel Girard. He controls the contractors, the firms, the money paths. No one can refuse him. If we resist, he threatens our families, our careers, everything." Henri felt no sympathy, but he understood the gravity. Marcel Girard was a powerful figure, connected to influential circles. Taking him down would not be easy. But justice required it. Henri gathered every piece of evidence. He returned to the ministry with mountains of documents, testaments, and digital records. The minister listened carefully to Henri as he explained the scheme. The minister knew that such a case could shake the entire political world. It could bring down alliances, expose powerful individuals, and unleash media storms. But he also knew that if ignored, the people would eventually discover the truth and distrust the government forever. So he allowed Henri to proceed. The arrest of Marcel Girard happened at dawn. Police surrounded his mansion in the suburbs. Henri watched from a distance as officers led the man out in handcuffs. Girard stared at Henri, rage burning in his eyes, but behind the rage was fear. He knew the evidence was impossible to deny. With Girard detained, the entire network of shell companies collapsed. Investigations spread across the country and into foreign banks. Dozens of participants were arrested. Millions of euros were recovered. The La Voie Atlantique project resumed under new management, clean and transparent. The public eventually learned of the scandal, but they also learned of the man who uncovered it. Newspapers published his achievements. Television shows discussed his discipline and integrity. Citizens began to see him as a guardian of public wealth. Some called him a silent hero of the Republic. But Henri did not care for recognition. He returned to his simple office in the ministry. He hung no awards on his walls. He continued his work with the same calm expression, as if nothing had changed. One evening, as he left the building, a young intern approached him. "Monsieur Valancourt, I wanted to say that your work inspires many of us. You give us hope that the service of the state can remain honorable." Henri smiled faintly. "We do what must be done," he said. "Nothing more." The intern nodded respectfully and walked away. Henri continued down the street. The lamps cast long shadows on the pavement. The city hummed with life. He knew that corruption would always exist, that greed would always find new paths. But he also knew that he would always be there to follow those paths, to trace the truth hidden behind numbers, to protect the trust of the nation. Because he was El Inspector des Finances. And that title, more than power, more than recognition, carried a responsibility that he bore with unwavering dignity. And so his work continued into the quiet hours of the night, in silence, in patience, and in service to the Republic.